Okay, dear students. So today we'll be discussing about an interesting topic of human health and uh, diseases. So a part of it we have already discussed microbes in human welfare. So now human health and diseases will be discussing about. So can you tell me what is health? Can you define health? Venkat, Diksha, Dia, Ashton. Can you define what is health? See, health is a state of physical, mental, and social well being of an organism, and not just freedom from disease or infirmity. This is the definition of World Health Organization. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being of an organism, and not just freedom from disease or infirmity. So, this is what is the definition of health. Okay. So it is as per the World Health Organization definition. So whenever you are talking about health, it's a state of complete physical. Physically, you should be healthy. Mentally, okay. So not having any stress, anxiety, panic attacks, depressions. So being free from all this. So mental health and social well-being. That is, you gel together within the community or group. So that is the social health is also equally important. So as per World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being of an organism, and not just freedom from disease or infirmity. Infirmity means handicappedness. So it is not just freedom from disease or infirmity, but it is also a healthy state of physical, mental, and social well-being of an organism. So complete 360-degree definition of health. See, generally we say consider any person to be unhealthy only when they are having some issues in physical aspects of it. But we ignore the mental and social well-being, social health. We ignore it. That shouldn't happen. Equally importance should be given to the mental and social health also. Okay, so health is affected by from birth. If it is there, it might be because of genetic disorders, or now we are having some infections, isn't it? Like pandemic, corona is there, which is pandemic in nature, which has created throughout the world. Health is of many people are affected by this corona virus. So it is infectious, isn't it? It spreads from person to person. Change in lifestyle, like food, water, rest, exercise, habits. This also makes the change in level lifestyle also affects our health. Like if you are having a very sedentary lifestyle, so you are bound to undergo the changes in your health. So change in lifestyle, so that also affects our health. Excess or deficiency of food, water, rest, exercise, habits, they are going to cause a lot of harm. So health is not only affected by genetic disorders, infections, but also change in lifestyle, the way that we uh, perform our day-to-day activities. See, the mind influences immune system through neural and endocrine systems, and thereby health. So the mind is going to influence the immune system, that is our ability to withstand the organisms through neural and endocrine system, and thereby health. So when the functioning of organs or systems of the body is adversely affected, it is called a disease. See, when the functioning of organs or systems of the body is adversely affected, we call it as disease. Disease is defined as the functioning of organs or a system of the body is adversely affected. We define it as disease. So the mind influences immune system through neural and endocrine systems, and thereby affects health. So when the functioning of organs or systems of the body is adversely affected, we call it as disease. It is called as disease. So healthy body plus healthy mind equals happy life. So healthy body and healthy mind is equivalent to happy life. So that is what we have to remember about it. So mind also influence the immune system. So mental health also plays an important role. So how do they influence the immune system? So in the previous year, you have studied about neural coordination, neural system, and chemical coordination, endocrine system. So they where the hormones are also taken into consideration. They also affect our immune system and thereby health. So when the functioning of any organ or system of the body is adversely affected, it is called as disease, like malfunctioning of a kidney, malfunctioning of heart, okay, so malfunctioning of liver, so they might all lead to diseases. So various disorders we have studied under human physiology in the previous year, isn't it? So healthy body and healthy mind leads to happy life. So a healthy body and healthy mind both are required to lead an happy life, so which is the most difficult part, to have both of them together, healthy body and healthy mind. But our goal should be that. So to lead a happy life, we require a healthy body and a healthy mind. So diseases are of two types. Infectious, it transmits from one person to another, like cholera, the present pandemic, that is corona, plague, bubonic plague, cold. So they spread from one person to another, smallpox. So earlier the poliomyelitis, almost they have eradicated from the surface of our poliomyelitis, but earlier it caused an havoc. So it was spread from one person to another. So the infectious diseases, they transmit from one person to another. So non-infectious, they do not transmit from one person to another. So the non-infectious diseases, they do not transmit from one person to another. It might be protein deficiency. See, generally we say that the kids below of laborers, or those who are below in the strata of society, we generally say that those kids are much more healthy when compared to our kids at home. So you might see this sort of tummy and be under the impressions they are well fed, but rather they are malnourished. They might be suffering from protein deficiency like kwashiorkor or marasmus disease. So this might be a disorder, not a healthy state of or obese state of these kids. Okay, so the non-infectious, it can be because of lifestyle, it can be obesity, okay, lifestyle, or it can be because of genetic disorder. So the non-infectious, they don't spread from person to person, so they do not transmit from one person to another. So you have this non-infectious diseases like deficiency of iodine in the food diet. It leads to goitry, isn't it? So the thyroxine would be hyposecretion of thyroxine also leads to the simple goitry, what we call it as. Hypersecretion leads to exathalamic goitry. We have studied that in the previous year. So these slides are a few of them. So the organisms which cause disease or disease causing organisms are called as pathogens. So parasites are pathogens as they harm the host. So parasites are pathogens. So there is hairline difference between parasite and pathogen. So the disease causing organisms are called as pathogens. Parasites are pathogens as they harm the host. They harm the host. So the good humor hypothesis. This was proposed by Hippocrates and Indian Ayurveda system. Hippocrates and the Indian Ayurveda system proposes this good humor hypothesis. Okay, proposed by Hippocrates and Indian Ayurveda system. It states that health is a state of body and mind where there is a balance of certain humors. Persons with black bile belong to hot personality and would have fevers. Okay, so it states that health is a state of body and mind where there is a balance of certain humors. Okay, the humors are four types of humors are there: blood, yellow bile, black bile, phlegm. So this correct balance of this humors is the state reason for the state of body and mind. That is what Hippocrates and Indian Ayurveda system spoke about. It states that health is a state of body and mind, and where there is a balance of certain humors. Persons having more of black bile belong to hot personality, very hot personality in the sense very aggressive and unpredictable personality, and they would be having fevers. William Harvey disproved this hypothesis. because he discovered that we have only blood and lymph. Okay, he discovered blood circulation and demonstrated normal body temperature in persons with black bile using thermometer. So he showed that there was a normal body temperature in persons who are having black bile using thermometer. He demonstrated it. So we know today the bile is uh, exclusively meant for the purpose of digestion. So they are secreted in the duodenum, phlegm, the blood is the river of life. So today we know each and every function of it. But earlier they had certain hypotheses or assumptions that persons with black bile belong to a hot personality, their body temperatures would be high and they would be having fevers. But William Harvey disproved that. Sir William Harvey was a person who discovered the blood circulation, and he demonstrated that normal body temperatures were present in person with black bile, and using a thermometer he demonstrated that. The next one is common infectious diseases in man. So, what are the common infectious diseases in man? See, the various bacterial diseases are pathogen. So, we'll be discussing common infectious diseases in man, typhoid. Okay, so you should be remembering in this order itself. So, pathogen, which is the organism which causes typhoid? Salmonella typhi is the organism which causes typhoid. What is the mode of transmission? It enters small intestine. The typhoid organism, that is Salmonella typhi, enters small intestine through food and water and migrates to other organs through blood. So the Salmonella typhi enters through food and water and migrates to other organs through blood. So symptoms of this typhoid: sustained high fever, that is 39 to 40 degrees centigrade, headache, weakness, stomach pain. So they have headache, weakness, stomach pain, constipation, and loss of appetite. Intestinal perforation and death may occur if it is not treated on time. Okay, so you can, so this typhoid is by contaminated food and water. Okay, so it can be fecal-oral route carrier, so gallbladder in the intestine. So they can also spread through the feces. Okay, so some of the symptoms are headache, shivering, sweating, fever, high fever with 39 to 40 degrees centigrade, constipation, and loss of appetite. Intestinal perforation and death may also occur in case it is not treated at the earliest. So, intestinal perforation, holes in the intestine might also happen, and death may occur. So Vidal test is used for confirmation of the disease. So the Vidal test is used for the confirmation of the disease. So like here you have the organism with the flagellum. So flagellum, so H antigen, O antigen. So the Vidal test is used for confirmation of the disease. Okay. So we'll not go into the details of Vidal test, how they come to a conclusion. But Mary Malone, there's a video that I have made. I'll be sharing it to you. She's also called as Typhoid Mary. So she was nicknamed Typhoid Mary, who was a professional cook. She was a typhoid carrier who continued to spread typhoid for several years through the food she prepared. So she was a typhoid carrier, asymptomatic, without any symptoms. Okay, so she continued to spread typhoid for several years through the food that she prepared in her position as a head cook. Okay, so many people died out of infections that was caused by Mary Malone. So I'll be sharing you that video about Mary Malone in the WhatsApp group. Okay. Now, the next bacterial disease that we are going to discuss, which are infectious disease, is pneumonia. So P is silent here when you are pronouncing it, pneumonia. So it infects the lung alveoli, the air sacs of lung. The alveoli get filled with fluid, leading to respiratory problems. So whenever the normal air sacs they are filled with fluid, so it leads to respiratory problems. You know that there has to be diffusion from alveoli to the blood capillaries. So the pneumonia, it infects the lung alveoli. The alveoli gets filled with fluid, leading to respiratory problems. Now, what is the organism which is causing it? That we'll see in the next slide. The pathogen which causes pneumonia are Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenzae. So any one of them can cause this pneumonia, Streptococcus pneumoniae or Haemophilus influenzae. So, mode of transmission, how is this pneumonia transmitted? By inhaling the droplets or aerosols released by an infected person. So, we generally, it is infectious. So, by inhaling the droplets, or they might sneeze, okay, aerosols that is released by an affected person, or coughing. So, sharing glasses and utensils with an infected person is also a way of spreading this disease. So sharing glasses and utensils with an infected person. So these are all things that we should remember about. So Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenzae are responsible for the pneumonia. So the mode of transmission is inhalation of droplets or aerosols which are released by an infected person. So generally sharing glasses or utensils from the patient with an infected person also spreads the disease. See, aerosols is whenever they cough or sneeze, so the aerosols are released into the atmosphere, and if we are nearby and if we inhale them, so the possibility of pneumonia spreading to a healthy person is more. So this is the mode of transmission. Symptoms are, the symptoms of pneumonia are respiratory problems, fever, chills, cough, headache. In severe cases, lips and fingernails turn gray to bluish color. So the symptoms of pneumonia are respiratory problems, fever. So they'll be having fever, chills, that is shivering and chills they'll have, cough, headache. In severe cases, lips and fingernails. So the lips and fingernails turn gray to bluish color because of lack of oxygen. Okay, so because the you know that the alveoli will be filled with fluids. So whenever a person is affected by pneumonia, so this symptoms of typhoid and pneumonia, many of the symptoms are similar, isn't it? Fever, headache. So but in case of pneumonia, in severe cases, lips and fingernails turn gray to bluish color because of lack of oxygen. So the next we'll be discussing about the infectious disease in man as viral diseases. So it infects nose and respiratory passage, but not lungs. So this infects nose and respiratory passage, but not lungs. And it lasts for 3 to 7 days. See, this infectious disease lasts for 3 to 7 days. So generally, there is a saying whenever a person has cold, if you take medicine, you will be cured within 7 days, and if you don't take medicine within 1 week, you're cured. So both mean the same, 7 days or 1 week. That is, the antibiotics and other things are ineffective against this common cold. So it generally infects the viral disease. It is the common cold, so it infects the nose and respiratory passage, but not lungs. Okay, nose and respiratory passage, but not lungs. So it lasts for 3 to 7 days. So this viral disease lasts for 3 to 7 days. The pathogen which causes this viral disease is rhinoviruses. Okay, so the mode of transmission, inhaling droplets resulting from cough or sneeze through contaminated objects like pens, books, cups, doorknobs, computer accessories. Even today, you can almost the symptoms are same with the corona viral corona disease, isn't it? So the pandemic corona disease is also spreading through the same, through aerosols. So inhaling droplets, that is the reason we wear the mask, since it is more lethal. So we wear masks. Okay. So inhaling droplets resulting from cough or sneezes, uh, and hand sanitization we do frequently for corona, isn't it? So similarly, even for cold, if you do the sanitization frequently, you have lesser chances of infections. So the mode of transmission also could be through touching the contaminated objects like pens, books, cups, doorknobs, computer accessories. So even your mobiles. Okay. So they if the person has cold, and the droplets might have fallen on these either through sneezing or through cough. There is every possibility of spread of this when another healthy person handles these gadgets. Okay, so remember, it can even be through the computer accessories, mobiles, etc. The mode of transmission. Symptoms of this cold, common cold, is nasal congestion and discharge. So congestion, kapha kattide antiralla. So that is what is congestion, nasal congestion. You find your nose is blocked and you'll be blowing your nose frequently, isn't it? Nasal congestion and discharge. Okay. Fever, headache, sore throat, cough, hoarseness, hoarseness of voice, tiredness, etc. These are all the symptoms of common cold. So the nasal congestion and discharge, fever you will be having, headache, sore throat, cough, hoarseness, okay, tiredness, etc. So the common cold is caused by rhinoviruses. The next infectious disease that we'll be discussing, it is a protozoan disease. Still now we discussed about bacterial disease, then we discussed about common cold, which was a viral disease. Now, infectious disease, the next one that we are going to discuss is the protozoan disease, which is caused by uh, protozoan disease, especially malaria. Okay, so the pathogen for malaria, you should remember all this species name. So the Plasmodium species, Plasmodium is the pathogen. It is a protozoan, and you know that it is immotile. It is belongs to Sporozoa. So Sporozoan protist or Sporozoan protozoa is Plasmodium. So Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium falciparum. So these are three different species that causes this malaria. Plasmodium falciparum causes the most serious malaria or malignant malaria, which spreads throughout. Okay, the mode of transmission of this malaria is by biting of female Anopheles mosquito. So female Anopheles mosquito, when they bite and take up the uh, blood, human blood from an infected person, and then they bite an healthy person. So they are going to spread this malaria. Okay, so the female Anopheles mosquito spreads the malarial disease from an healthy person, from an infected person to an healthy person. So it's a vector. Okay, so mode of transmission is through an vector, that is female Anopheles mosquitoes. So the symptoms of malaria, hemozoin. So this is a toxin released by Plasmodium which causes chill and high fever. So hemozoin is a toxin released by this Plasmodium which causes chill and high fever, recurring every 3 to 4 days. So this chill and high fever will be frequently recurring for every 3 to 4 days. Okay, so you can see the gametocytes of the Plasmodium falciparum in blood. Okay, so blood samples, if we analyze, we can notice this Plasmodium. So Plasmodium releases a toxin called as hemozoin, which causes chill and high fever, and this recurring fever every 3 to 4 days. So the central point is the headache, skin. You can see the chill, sweating, respiration will be dry cough, enlargement of spleen, nausea or vomiting, back pain, muscular fatigue, systemic fever, so headache. So these are all the symptoms of malaria. So the life cycle of Plasmodium. Okay, so we'll be just studying the life cycle of this Plasmodium vivax. See, whenever the plasma, the mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito bites uh, and healthy person, and this female Anopheles mosquito has this Plasmodium, it enters into the bloodstream. Okay, so the sporozoites enter and they enter into the liver, and from the liver they are going to enter into the RBCs. So there is an asexual blood cycle, and gametocytes are formed within the blood, and these gametocytes are transferred throughout the body. Again, if a mosquito bites, female Anopheles mosquito bites, then these gametocytes are carried by them. So this is in brief the life cycle of Plasmodium. Okay, so mosquito takes up gametocytes or injects sporozoites. So when they are, so the gametocytes within the mosquitoes system, they are going to form the sporozoites. So the gametocytes enters here and they are going to form oocyst, and later they form the sporozoites. So this is the entire process in summary or in gist. So you can remember it this way: life cycle of Plasmodium. So the infected, the mosquito which has this, the mature infective stage, that is sporozoites, escape from intestine and migrate to the mosquito salivary glands. So this is present in the salivary glands, the sporozoites, which are mature infective stages. So it is present in the salivary glands of female Anopheles mosquito. When it bites an healthy human being, so the mosquito bites a healthy human being, so the sporozoites or parasites, so they are injected into the human being. So the parasites reach the liver through blood. So asexual reproduction takes place in the liver cells. So the plasmodium, the sporozoites there. So the asexual reproduction takes place in liver cells. They bursting the cells, release into blood. So they are going to burst the cells and they are released into blood. So the asexual reproduction in RBCs, bursting RBCs release hemozoin. This causes cycles of fever and other symptoms. So the asexual reproductive aspect of this plasmodium, they bring about the bursting of the liver cells. So asexual reproduction in liver cells, bursting cells release into blood. The asexual reproduction in RBCs continue, and bursting of RBCs release hemozoin, which are responsible for the fever, recurring fever and chills. Then this asexual reproductive bodies, so they undergo this, they are transformed to gametocytes, sexual stage in RBCs. So the female mosquito sucks blood with gametocytes. Okay, so this is the stage when they blood they suck, the female mosquito sucks blood with gametocytes from an infected person. So within the mosquito, the host, the fertilization and development, fertilization of this gametocytes takes place, and development in mosquitoes gut, it takes place within the mosquitoes gut, alimentary canal. Fertilization and development in mosquitoes gut, the gametocytes are going to undergo fertilization and further development within the mosquito's gut, and they are going to enter into a mature infective stage. They form sporozoites which escape from the intestine and migrate to the mosquito salivary glands. So now this sporozoites, the mature infective stage sporozoites, they escape from intestine and they are going to migrate to the mosquito salivary glands. So this is what you have to remember regarding the life cycle of Plasmodium. So within the human being, what are all the changes that are going to take place? The sporozoites are introduced. They reach the liver through blood. Within the asexual reproduction in the liver cells takes place. Bursting cells release this asexual reproductive bodies into the blood. So the asexual reproduction in RBCs also is taking place. At bursting RBCs release hemozoin. The hemozoin is they're responsible for the recurring fever and other symptoms. Then they are going to, the asexual reproductive bodies are going to form the gametocytes and enter into the sexual stage. So gametocytes are formed in the RBCs. The female mosquito sucks from such an infected person blood with gametocytes. So when this blood with gametocytes enters into their intestinal tract, so the fertilization and development of this gametocytes, fertilization of gametocytes and further development takes place in the mosquito's gut or alimentary canal, and the mature infective stages, that is sporozoites, escape from the intestine and they are going to migrate to the mosquito's salivary glands. So this will be again, the cycle continues. So when mosquito bites another healthy human being, the sporozoites are injected and they enter into the bloodstream. So this is how the life cycle of Plasmodium goes on continuing. Okay. So the next protozoan disease that we will be discussing about is the amoebiosis or amoebic dysentery. So it is caused by the pathogen Entamoeba histolytica. So the mode of transmission is through house flies. So they are mechanical carriers. They transmit parasites from feces to food and water. So the mode of transmission is through house flies. So which are mechanical carriers. They transmit parasites from feces to food and water. So it might also be from the contaminated food and water. This transmission also takes place. Houseflies are also the mechanical carriers which transmit parasites from feces to food and water. Symptoms of this amoebiosis is constipation, abdominal pain and cramps, stools with excess mucus and blood clots. So this is very lethal. So these are the symptoms that you should remember. So constipation, abdominal pain and cramps, stools with excess mucus and blood clots. So these are the symptoms of this entamoeba histolytica, which causes amoebiosis. So amoebiosis symptoms or amoebic dysentery is completely different from normal dysentery. So the excess mucus and blood clots are lost through the stools. Okay, so this is what you have to remember. So constipation, abdominal pain and cramps, stools with excess mucus and blood clots. So these are the symptoms of amoebiosis. Then the next helminth diseases caused by worms. So Ascariasis. So the pathogen is Ascaris. So Ascaris lumbricoides is roundworm. So there are different species. Ascaris, the intestinal parasite. Okay. So the mode of transmission is from soil, water, vegetables, fruits, etc., contaminated with feces containing eggs of parasites. They are contaminated with feces containing eggs of parasites. Okay. So the mode of transmission is through soil, water, vegetables, fruits, etc., which are contaminated with feces containing eggs of parasites. So that is the reason the washing of vegetables and fruits before consumption is important. Boiling water is also important because water is also major contaminant through which various diseases spread. Okay, so the symptoms of this ascariasis are internal bleeding, so muscular pain, fever, anemia, and blockage of intestinal passage. So the symptoms of ascariasis are internal bleeding, muscular pain. So there is a muscular pain, fever, anemia, and blockage of intestinal passage. So these are the various symptoms of the ascariasis, which is caused by the helminthic worm Ascaris. Then filariasis or elephantiasis or anekalu, what we call it as, it is caused by this microscopic filarial worms or Wucheria bancrofti and Wucheria malai. So they are the helminths which are causing this as the elephantiasis or filariasis, anekalu, what we call it as. Mode of transmission is by bite of female Culex mosquito. So the female Culex mosquito uh, spreads this disease from an infected person to a healthy person. Symptoms of this filariasis or elephantiasis are filarial worms lives in lymphatic vessels, usually of lower limbs. Okay, it causes chronic inflammation of the organs, inflammation of the organs. Chronic inflammation of the organs, okay, which in which they live for many years. Limbs and genital organs may also be deformed. So that is a horrible disease to have. So the limbs and genital organs may also be deformed. So the symptoms of this elephantiasis is the filarial worms live in lymphatic vessels, usually of lower limbs. It causes chronic inflammation of the organs in which they live for many years. The limbs and genital organs may also be deformed. So the limbs and genital organs may also be deformed in case of this filarial worms or the Wucheria bancrofti and Wucheria malai. So which causes this filariasis or elephantiasis. So since they live in lymphatic vessels, usually of lower limbs, it causes chronic inflammation of the organs in which they live for many years. The limbs and genital organs may be deformed because of this filariasis or elephantiasis. So then there are fungal diseases like ringworms or gudgy, what we call it as. So the ringworms, so as the name indicates ringworms, so you can find a ring-like structure here seen. They are caused by Microsporum, Trichophyton, and Epidermophyton. So they are caused by Microsporon, Trichophyton, and Epidermophyton. So two phytons are there. Microsporum, Trichophyton, and in the Epidermophyton. They are seen in groin region between the toes. So they are seen, usually these ringworms are seen between in groin or between the toes, etc. Okay. So these are the pathogens. So you can see this microspermum, trichophyton, epidermophyton. See, pathogen microspermum, trichophyton, and epidermophyton, they are seen in groin between toes. So the mode of transmission is from soil or by using cloths, towels, cloths, combs, etc. Heat and moisture help the fungi to grow. So the heat and moisture helps this fungi to grow. So not washing the hands, close contact with those infected, damp skin for extended time. All these are the reason for the ringworms. Okay. So the mode of transmission is from soil or by using towels. So most of the times you should have a separate towel, cloth, combs, comb, etc. Don't share them. One is from hygiene point of view. Okay, heat and moisture helps fungi to grow. So that also you should remember about this ringworms or gudgy. So which is caused by microsporum, trichophyton, and epidermophyton fungi. So this is what you have to remember about it. So mode of transmission is by using soil from soil, or by using or by sharing towels, cloths, combs, etc. So it spreads from an infected person to healthy person. Heat and moisture also helps the fungi to grow. So symptoms of this, some of this fungal diseases are dry scaly lesions on skin, nails, scalp, etc. Intense itching. Okay, this is the scalp where you find ringworm of the scalp. Okay, tinea capitis, which is caused by this uh, the fungi itself. Okay, dry scaly lesions on skin. You can find the dry scaly lesions on skin, nails, scalp, etc. Intense itching is also one of the symptoms of this ringworm. So some of the worst affected, so they're in between the fingers, in between the toes. So you can see this dry scaly lesions on skin, nails, scalp, etc. And intense itching also you can notice. So those are the symptoms. So prevention and control of diseases, personal hygiene plays an important role. Keep the body clean, have regular bath. Okay. Uh, Not just because you are at home, you attend classes without having a bath. That might not cause the disease, but hygiene is compromised. Okay. Always have regular activities as you were having during regular classes. Okay. So have a bath, have a breakfast, and then attend the classes as it is the schedule should be the same. Okay. Then use clean drinking water, food, etc. So the best way to use the clean drinking water is boil the water. Okay, and food also should be sanitized before we are using. Sanitized in the sense washed with salt and water as much as possible. Cook the food properly. So if the food is cooked properly, it kills many microorganisms. So these are the ways of having the personal hygiene also helps in avoiding this and controlling these diseases. So today we are all saying that for corona we should have prevention is the only way of treatment of corona at present, isn't it? Prevention is better than cure. So prevention is the only way that we can overcome corona as of now. Vaccinations effectiveness is also not much proved, and before it reaches everyone the vaccination, still then the best way to keep away from this pandemic disease what we are suffering at present is personal hygiene, frequent sanitization of hands, then also the mask, wearing the mask. So they are all going to help us in avoiding the disease, spread of the disease, okay, or having the disease from an infected person. Okay, that's the reason that you should all be wearing masks and also having your hands sanitized. So the public hygiene. So there should be proper disposal of waste and excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, and tanks. Avoid contact with infected persons or their belongings to control airborne diseases. Okay. Standard practices of hygiene in public catering. Okay, control and eliminate vectors, example mosquitoes. So they have to be eliminated. So the public hygiene that we should expect, that we should all be having, is proper disposal of waste and excreta. Okay, so the periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, and tanks, that should happen from the government hand. It should happen. So avoiding contact with infected persons or their belongings is also important. So avoiding contact with them so that the airborne diseases can be avoided. Standard practices of hygiene in public catering. So where they should be having a gloves worn, and they should not be using their hands. Okay, so using a proper hygiene method in public catering. So many times food poisoning happens because of improper hygiene practices, isn't it? Then control and eliminate vectors, that is the mosquitoes. So stagnant water should all be removed, and that is how we can eliminate the mosquitoes. Avoid stagnation of water. Okay, so these are all the sources of breeding of mosquito larvae. You know that many diseases are transferred through mosquito. So at the larval level itself, we should control them. So we should not avoid them. We should not help in breeding of these mosquitoes. So all the stagnant water should be removed. So or they should be sanitized so that there is no growth of the mosquito larvae. Control and eliminations of the vectors, example mosquitoes, regular cleaning of air coolers if water is stagnant for long duration, regular cleaning of this household coolers would also be beneficial. So regular cleaning of household coolers. Use of mosquito nets. So around the mattress, so the mosquito nets that we have, it prevents the mosquitoes from biting us. So that is also one of the mosquito nets or mesh is also very important. Introduce larvivorous fishes like Gambusia in ponds. See the Gambusia in ponds, they are biocontrol agents. So they are the natural predators of this larvae. So they feed on this larvae. So introducing this larvivorous fishes which feed on mosquito larvae like Gambusia in ponds will help in removal of these mosquito larvae, and growth of this mosquito larvae will be avoided. So we have to introduce this Gambusia fishes. Okay. So how do we today at we have a lot of progress both at the individual level and at the society level. So the control and elimination of the vectors, example mosquitoes, we are using a lot of sprays, isn't it? We are using sprays, the repellents. You have this mosquito coils. Okay, so they're all fine, but one best thing is generally at the evening hours, the best time when the mosquitoes enter is in between 6 to 7. So keep your windows and doors closed at that part of time. I even now I feel that the best way to avoid this mosquito is using that mosquito racket. Okay, so that is also one of the best ways of killing the mosquitoes. Earlier we had to so it was very difficult to eliminate the mosquitoes. Okay, at present you can use this insecticides in ditches, drainage, and swamps. You can also do that. A lot of sprays are available at individual levels. And today the windows also comes with this mosquito mesh coils, so such windows can be preferred. Okay, provide doors and windows with wire mesh. This sort of windows and doors with wire mesh. So sliding windows, you have the three types of glasses here with the mosquito mesh also you obtain. So these precautions can avoid vector-borne diseases like malaria. So the mosquito carry diseases like malaria, filariasis, dengue fever, and chikungunya. So which is most prevalent? Dengue and chikungunya is most prevalent in Bangalore, isn't it? So that can be avoided by having this mesh. So these precautions can avoid vector-borne diseases like, so the providing doors and windows with wire mesh, it can avoid vector-borne diseases like malaria, filariasis, dengue fever, and chikungunya. So vaccines and immunization help to control diseases like, so you might have undergone a series of vaccination from infant till the age of 14 years. So there are some vaccines, second dosage, third booster, or something is there even at 12, 14 years. So those vaccination and immunization help to control. See, there are no medicines once the disease is there. So the vaccination and immunization quite early helps to control diseases like smallpox, polio, diphtheria, pneumonia, and tetanus. Okay, so diphtheria, pneumonia, and tetanus, all these are controlled by vaccines and immunization. So there were many studies also like why are Indians not more affected by this corona pandemic than the European and American countries where there were the death was more in ratio. The reason was many of them were saying that the vaccinations that we are undergoing, we are even today undergoing BCG vaccination. Our infants are undergoing BCG vaccination, which has been stopped in other countries. Maybe this has provided us an immunity against this pandemic coronavirus. So that might be one of the reasons that the death rate was not high in India, even though there was an infection. Okay, so there are many studies of that nature. Even today, they are making a study of it. So anyway, so the vaccination and immunization helps us to control these diseases. Today, almost because of that the polio vaccination drive that was done throughout the world by WHO, World Health Organization. So we have almost eradicated this polio virus from the very surface of the earth. Okay, so that is what we have done by this pulse polio program that was done throughout the world. So the drugs like antibiotics also help to treat infectious diseases. Okay, so you should also remember today India is the pharmacy of the world. They are having the capability to produce vaccination for the entire world. So India is that is one of the feather in our caps, that is being a pharmacy of the world. So we have so many uh, vaccine developing companies that they are doing a wonderful job today and supplying vaccines for corona throughout the world. So the effectiveness and other things, that might be the second part of it, but we have the capability to produce vaccines at a large scale in a very short notice of time. That is the reason India is the pharmacy of the world. That is what we are getting the uh, image of at present. Okay, so these are things that you should remember. A few things in the next class we'll be discussing the other aspects of this particular topic. Okay, any doubts or clarification, you can get it clarified, dear students. You have any doubts or clarification?